Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to kick off in a couple of minutes, but we're just waiting for a few more people to sign on. I can see lots of people flowing in, which is great. My name's Amber and I work on the marketing team here at AgriWeb. I've been here for 4 years now, had an absolutely incredible experience so far. Really excited to have you with us for our webinar this afternoon. We're going to be talking about strategies for hiring and retaining skilled staff. We're really lucky to have a longtime customer of ours, Hannah Russell, joining us. She's based out of Manila in New South Wales. And we've also got Kayla Evans from Ag Career Start. We'll let a few more people join us and then we will kick off in just a few short minutes. While you're joining us, you can let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat at the bottom of your screen. We would love to hear where you guys are from. Hi, Donna. Few people signing off in the chat where they're joining us from. Got New South Wales, Victoria, Sonia from Wagga. While a few more people are joining us, I've got a poll that I might throw out to you guys just so we can get a bit of info on who's on the call today. So first poll is around how many teammates you work with. Looks like we've got a pretty even split so far across all the options, which is great to see. A few larger teams on the call, which is great. So share those results with you now. And I've got one more poll as well while you're joining. If you've just tuned in, my name's Amber. I work on the marketing team here at AgriWeb. We'll be kicking off in about 30 seconds. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to join us. And while you're jumping on, we've just got one more poll just around how you find new staff. So do you use an agency? Is it all word of mouth or referrals? You're looking at job boards, Facebook community pages, or is it something else? And if it is something else, I'd love to hear in the chat what you guys are using. Looks like a very even split across these responses as well. We'll share these now. Awesome. Okay, well, we might jump into it. For those that have just joined or are still joining us now, I can still see you jumping on. Welcome to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Amber and I work on the marketing team. Been at AgriWeb for 4 years now. I'm based at Rowena, New South Wales. We're in the midst of harvest. We've still got about 2 weeks to go. Fava beans are done. Wheat is halfway through and haven't gotten into the chickpeas yet. I'm sure a lot of you on the call today are in the midst of harvest as well. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be with us. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited about the webinar this afternoon. We've got two guests with us today. We've got Hannah, who's a customer of ours from Manila in New South Wales, and Kayla from Ag Career Start. To jump into our agenda, I'm just going to do a very quick welcome to country, a very brief overview of AgriWeb and who we are. I know we have a lot of non-customers that have registered for the webinar, so very quick intro to AgriWeb and what we do. And then I'm going to throw it over to Hannah to give us an overview of her family operation, Grassbrook Pastoral. And then Kayla will introduce us to Ag Career Start. And then the three of us are going to have a panel discussion on what we're seeing in the industry at the moment. And then we'll finish up with a Q&A. So I would just love to see all of you throwing questions into the Q&A, which you can find at the bottom of your screen as we move through the session. If you have any questions for Hannah or Kayla or myself, please chuck them in and we'll get to them throughout the session, and then we'll try and get to as many as we can by the end. So to kick things off, I will do a welcome to country quickly. We wanted to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to the elders past and present. So to introduce you to AgriWeb really quickly, this is really our mission. So we have been around for 10 years now. AgriWeb was born out of three founders. We've got Justin Webb, who is from a sheep station down in Victoria. We've got John Farger, who is from South Australia on a big cattle station. And then Kevin Baum, who is our US founder. So our mission at AgriWeb really is encapsulated in this image. We're trying to get you to take all of the records that you are currently keeping in your top pocketbook. Maybe you're scribbling on the windscreen of your ute, putting these through your washing machine, dropping them in the trough, I'm sure. We're trying to get all of that into the palm of your hands and into that device that I know we all carry around all day, every day. So really what we're trying to do is, as I mentioned, deliver the digital future of ag. We want you to be able to manage your entire farm on your phone and on our web app. And when we say entire farm, we don't just mean your livestock. We are a livestock management software, but we want you to be able to manage your land, your grazing, your livestock, and your team, which is why we're here today. If you did want to learn a little bit more about AgriWeb, we do offer a free trial, and I'd really encourage anyone who is new around here to jump into that free trial. It's a really great way to get acquainted with the product, and of course, the team will reach out to you. Enough about AgriWeb for now. I am super excited to introduce Hannah. So this is the second time that I have wrangled Hannah onto a webinar. We are big fans of Hannah Russell and Grassbrook Pastoral here at AgriWeb. Hannah lives and works as part of her family operation. It's made up of several properties surrounding Manila in northern New South Wales. Hannah's family have been using AgriWeb since 2021. They actually signed up after running into us at a field day in Tamworth, which was a perfect encounter. Hannah will tell you more about her journey with us in a moment, but I did want to mention that her family, when they first started with us, they joined up on our essentials plan, so our base plan. And over the last few years, as their business has expanded and grown in a number of different ways that Hannah will jump into in a second, so has the use of AgriWeb. So they are now using our performance plan, managing individually, I believe. And so this basically means that Hannah and her family have fallen into our category of what we would call our advanced users of the platform. It's been absolutely incredible to see their journey with us so far. And so we're very excited to have you with us today, Hannah. Keen to hear a little bit more about Grassbrook Pastoral, and I know the audience are too, and of course your team and how it has grown and changed over the years as well. So over to you, Han.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd just like to thank AgriWeb and the other hosts of this webinar. It's really good to be a part of, being a young woman, just sharing my ideas and thoughts, and a lot of it is just my ideas and thoughts. So thank you for that. Basically, my family, there's a lovely little picture of some of my siblings and my dad there. We started off about we started in Manila 24 years ago. We have grown and changed over the years. Previously to that, we were living at Katingal, and we were a smaller chicken production, carrot growing, newspaper run was my grandfather's family's run. So that's changed a little bit over the years. And yeah, 24 years ago, we moved to Manila and we hit the ground running with chickens and left the chicken farm game a couple of years ago and hit the cattle game really hard. We now have around 4,000 head of cattle, occasionally dipping into sheep. We also run a big Whaler horse breeding farm there that my stepmom is running. We Our employment sort of has changed over the years. At the moment, we are um it's my dad, my stepmom, my oldest brother, his wife, his two gorgeous girls, my younger brother, a younger sister, and we've got one full-time employee and a few contractors, which has greatly changed from a few years ago being in the chicken farm and having some 5 to 10 full-time employees, various casuals of young school staff, weekend workers, holiday workers. We've had a collection of probably over 20 backpackers, mostly from Israel, which was a really lovely connection for our family to have all of these people coming into our family. We've had a lot of ring in family members come through and grow the businesses themselves. They're now contractors, growing their families as well, bringing just production to their lives. We also, a few years ago, probably had my cousins, and we've always been a family farm. So my grandparents originally moved us to Manila, and my dad has a couple of brothers, so their kids have all been involved. We're still involved in different parts together, which is really lovely, still being close. Um, we we are big advocates for AgriWeb, me mostly. Being my big jobs are just running the day-to-day technology, making sure all the information is there. So when we get audited or we want to plan for the future, all the information's there. We have greatly been saved by AgriWeb when we were audited by LPA a couple of years ago, just able to find all our information in AgriWeb, got us through the other line out the other side, and our auditor was very happy. She was quite happy with the information she could find. So I'm a great advocate for AgriWeb, and if anybody needs any tips on AgriWeb, happy to do that as a customer. We, at the moment, like I said previously, we've got about 4,000 head of cattle, which is the Santa Charolais crosses or straight Santas. So we're now leaning into AI, preg testing, and aging out some of our old girls, which is fun times. We are also about to hit harvest in, I think, early December. And we are um, sorry, I just got distracted by a question there. Just the general LPA audit. Sorry, I'll click into that. LPA will audit various customers on, well, sorry, various members on how they're running their farms, and it's not picked. They, yeah, it's sporadically, it's picked just, they pick a couple hundred people every year to audit, and we got hit with that one and got out the other side fine. We weren't in trouble for anything, which was really lovely. But yeah, if you get an LPA audit, it's nice to have AgriWeb on your side for all your records. Um, we Yeah, I think that's probably sort of me. I've talked a lot now.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah. I think we've probably
Sorry,
got
I forgot they were
these.
there.
That's okay. Did you want to talk about any of your maps or tasks or anything like that?
Um, yeah, probably. This is a fun picture of a screen grab of my screen for the last webinar. So we probably is my favorite part of AgriWeb is the calendar, or which then flips over to look at the task view. Um, We put everything in there, and it's so good because everybody can see it. And there's now been some actual upgrades since then, so you can have multiple people assigned, which is really awesome for working out who's meant to be where. If we do generally have a startup meeting on a Monday morning, but if it comes Wednesday morning, there isn't. If you, yeah, you can look at your tasks for the week and know where you're meant to be and who you're working with, and to make sure you have all the right equipment. Um, we have a bit of a game at the farm to see who can actually check off their task before dad, or who can add the right information into the task if dad's put the wrong time, because that's a laugh at the moment, 9 o'clock at night, and you're meant to be checking cows. It may be right, but generally it's not. So we, yeah, we rely very heavily on that, and it's definitely taken away from the fact of using our phones. Sorry, we use our phones for everything, but now having it all in the one spot has been quite handy, and it's just going to help us plan for the future. And I guess linking it with the main conversation of the webinar, we can actually, there's lots of different profiles that you can add people. So depending on who you've got on your farm, worker wise or contractor wise, they can have different access so that you can keep the right information going to the right people, which is good.
Amazing. Yes, our user roles are an incredible way to kind of make sure that people only have the level of access that you want them to have. And I think during times like harvest, for example, it's so handy to only be able to provide the tasks or map and tasks or our cropping user roles as well. So definitely a favorite feature. And then a beautiful picture of your operation to finish. Thank you, Hannah. Again, please feel free to pop some more questions in the chat or the Q&A for Hannah, and we'll make sure we get to those at the end of the session. But now we're going to jump over to Kayla. So we're really lucky to have Kayla Evans joining us today from Ag Career Start. Kayla joined the National Farmers Federation in January of 2022 to spearhead the Ag Career Start program as project manager. She oversees the delivery of the Gap Year program and is passionate about improving pathways available to young people entering ag. Originally from a family beef and cropping farm in Queensland, Kayla has extensive experience in the ag workforce sector, having run several ag careers, education, and capacity building projects for organisations such as the WADPI and Grain Industry Association of WA. She also runs her own ag podcast for youth, and she won the Australian Young Achiever of the Year, the Ag Award in 2020. Not a underachiever at all, Kayla. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would love you to tell our audience a little bit about Ag Career Start and yourself and what you guys are trying to achieve.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me along today and to talk about Ag Career Start. Sometimes I think it's I suppose to put some context around it, Ag Career Start is a capacity building program. It is a program for young people, low skilled people entering the agriculture industry. So it can be fun to talk about them in the context of employing and retaining skilled workers. But I think what this program does is offers a real pathway for you to upskill your own staff and take someone who is fresh out the school gates and offer them a fantastic opportunity. I'll just grab the next slide if I can, please, Amber. So Ag Career Start is a Commonwealth funded gap year program. We got $5.2 million from the Commonwealth government to run Ag Career Start. That was to put 200 young Australians on farm. We've since successfully sought out extra funding and we'll be continuing the program now for at least another 2 cohorts. So excited to see where we go. At its core, it is a supported and structured gap year program. What does that mean? It means we do market it to young people as a 10 to 12 month placement program where they are employed on a full-time basis at a full-time salary. It is for young Australians aged 17 to 25. So we're only talking about domestic residents when we're talking about Ag Career Start. One of the big key selling points for the program for our participants, but also for you as potential host producers as well, is that there is a dedicated pastoral support team. No one walks through this program alone, and I think that's what makes it really powerful and impactful. And I'll talk about some of the outcomes in a second. But another big part of the program is that it comes with $4,500 per participant to do training throughout the year. And that can be spent on things like a low stress stock handling school, getting their certificate in agriculture. It can also extend to things like truck licenses and forklift tickets. The other thing that our participants love to use their bursary for is to go to conferences and events, which doesn't sound necessarily that useful when we're talking about on farm, but in terms of what it contributes to their likelihood to stay long term in the industry, those conferences and events can be critical to expanding their broader understanding of where the farm sits in the context of a much bigger and vibrant industry. So we love to play in the program, and that bursary allows us to offer some really unique opportunities to our participants. We ran our own low stress stock handling school this year just to address some challenges we were having around access to training opportunities, particularly for some participants in isolated areas. So we're really able to respond to the needs not only of our participants but also of our producers as well. I'll grab the next slide, Amber. So we have, across our first 3 intakes, delivered 180 places. So that was 180 new entrants to the agriculture industry, which is really exciting. And it's a question I'll preempt because we always get it. About half of our participants come from the city. So 50% of our applicants right off the bat never stepped foot on a farm before, never worked in agriculture, but have been really wanting to give it a go. The other 50%, while they may be from a regional area, it's about half of that again that are actually from a farm or have some experience on a farm. So whether that be they've done school holidays working on a farm, they've got a cousin who's got a farm, or they're from a farm themselves. So we are really dealing with new entrants to the industry and providing a true pathway for first-time entrants, which is really exciting. Those training engagement bursaries I talked about just before. So we've delivered about $250,000 in training across the last 3 intakes. That number's growing by the day. And that's a really exciting thing for us because that's training that producers haven't had to pay for. So, that's low stress stock handling schools, working dog schools, you name it, that farmers haven't had to pay for, which is really amazing. But I think what we're most proud of is to see really high completion rates through the program. So across our 3 intakes, we average about 77% completion. So that's participants who are seeing out their minimum of 10 months on farm. If you benchmark that against other post-school programs, that's extremely high. The TAFE sector graduates about 25%. So a retention rate of about 77% in the program is really extremely exciting. And of that 77% who graduate, we retain about 84% of those in industry 6 months later. So it's not just about starting them on farm, it's about embedding them in the industry. And we're proving to have some really great results in that sense. I'll just grab the next slide, Amber, please. Just want to deep dive on some of the demographics. And I think I like to look at this because, again, this is what makes our program so unique, is in the people that we deal with. So we do skew slightly female. This is not unique to our program. I think if you look at university entrances and vocational qualification entrances as well, there are a lot of young women entering the agriculture industry, which is amazing to see. So this is just to give a bit of a positive highlight to that. About 10% of our participants have a disability. They would be categorized as mild disability, so things like autism or mild to moderate hearing or sight loss, things like that. Just people who need a little bit of an extra hand finding the right employer. So matching through the program is really what sets this apart from your traditional workforce agency or recruiter. We are not going to send you 30 applications. We are going to send you 2 because they're the 2 that we think are going to be absolutely best fit for your business, and likewise that you're going to be the best fit employer for them. We try and align on a number of things, not least of which is cultural fit, personality fit, and things like that. No surprises, being that we do market it as a gap year program, that 80% of our candidates are high school leavers. Either they finished high school or they haven't finished high school. So they're all, as you can see from that age graph there, fairly young, fresh out of school, minimal life experience, which makes for a very, very fun journey for everybody involved. But they are ready to be molded. And what I can absolutely promise through this program is that these young people really, really want to be in agriculture. I think there can be a bit of a rhetoric around that young people don't want to work in ag, and categorically, I'm here to deny that. I have more candidates for this program than I have host producers. We're turning people away. So rest assured and have some confidence in the fact that young people do want to work in our industry. It's just about finding the right start for them. Also, we do boast really great Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander participation in the program. So 7% of our participants are of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent, versus the population there, which you can see is about 3.8%. I'll just grab the next one, Amber. We recently had a large evaluation done on the program, obviously being Commonwealth funds, taxpayer money. This program is evaluated for success and outcomes. And so just wanted to give you a bit of a look at some of the outcomes there. The report itself is about a 50-page document, so I've just pulled some snapshots for you here. Always happy to share if you are interested. We've worked with 121 individual host businesses across the duration of the program so far, and about 67% of those are sort of medium to large scale businesses with a turnover of above $2 million. Having said that, we deal with farms of all scopes, shapes, and sizes, from corporates all the way down to small mum and dad type family operations, where our participant is the first full-time employee that business has ever had, and I'll talk about that in a little second. But 70%, over 70% of our producers say that the program helped them improve productivity on farm, that they found it to be a useful workforce tool, and that they would recommend it to other employers. What was really nice for me to hear as project manager, that even of those host farms who didn't complete the program, so for whatever reason their participant actually left farm halfway through, or at the start, whenever it might have been, 93% of those would still recommend the program. So that's where that pastoral support component is really important, because in my team we talk about what success looks like a lot. And for us, success isn't just about making sure someone finishes 10 months on farm and stays in agriculture. Success sometimes looks like they don't run crying and screaming back to the city telling all their friends what a terrible time they had in agriculture. So that pastoral support, that wraparound support they get from us can really help to alleviate some of those things, and just leaves everyone with a much more pleasant experience across the board, whether the placement completes or not. Some of our producers as well also say most of our producers actually say that they have or will improve a number of practices as a result of participating in the program. So unsurprisingly, being that is a Commonwealth funded program, there's a little bit of rigor involved for our host producers, not least of which is around safety and employment practices on farm. And so in order to participate in the program, we take our producers on a bit of a journey around ensuring they have those minimum standards in place. And because of that, our producers are saying they've improved their approach to staff PD, they've improved their management practices on farm, they've improved their on-farm culture, and that bringing someone in young and vibrant is actually a really huge positive for their on-farm culture. But above all, that they've improved their on-farm safety processes. So all really good outcomes, not just for our candidates, but for our host producers as well. I'll grab the next slide, and I think this might be my last one. So when hosts come to the program, they typically say it's for one of these 5 reasons, or a combination of all 5. I'm a little bit laggy. I hope you can see me just fine. Great. Amber's giving me thumbs up. Awesome. So the number one reason our host producers come to us is about workforce access. We hear it all the time. I've been trying to employ someone at a low skill level. I've been wanting to work with someone young, but I can't find them. So that's the number one reason. The second is about confidence to employ. I know a lot of people have wanted to embark on this journey of working with young people, but for whatever reason just haven't had the confidence to bite the bullet and go there. So that's what we're here to help with. Like I said, high touch support. This program is so unique. It offers a level of support that you will not get anywhere else, both for our participants and our host producers. We have 24/7 phone numbers, text lines, email. There's a Snapchat group for our participants. We are accessible all the time for our participants, but also for our host producers as well. You would have seen on the previous slide, we also offer free counseling through our program that is for participants and host producers as well. So it's just about, again, making sure everyone has a happy, safe, and healthy experience. Our host producers, although I will say the number one reason most of them will say they come to the program is about giving back, whether that be to industry, the broader industry, or to a young person, because it is so, so rewarding. So, in a very quick nutshell, because I could hog this whole webinar talking about this program, that is our Career Start program, and we're very, very proud.
Thank you so much, Kayla. That was a really beautiful overview of what you guys are doing. You can definitely hear the passion in your voice when you're talking about what you do, which I just love to hear. And it really does sound like an incredible opportunity for obviously the young people taking part in the program. But if any of you on the call today are producers and, have been thinking about really investing in a young person, Ag Career Start is definitely the crew to reach out to. I will include Kayla and Ag Career Start's information in our follow-up so that you guys can get in touch. So now we are going to jump into our panel discussion. I'm really excited about this. I think we're going to have a really great opportunity to pick both Kayla and Hannah's brains. We do have a few questions in the chat, but I think we might save those for the end if that's all right. So we'll make sure we jump into those shortly. Awesome. So great. Sorry, let me get my screen sorted. So first question that I would love to throw out to you first, Kayla, while we've got you, is just around the current challenges that you're seeing in the ag labour market. We hear a lot from our customers, which is why we sort of decided to go ahead with this webinar today. It's been a very consistent theme across this entire year, I would say, that finding and then obviously keeping skilled staff is a really, or even just staff, is a really huge challenge that everyone is facing. So, yeah, I'm wondering what you're seeing.
This is such a complex problem, and I think COVID really ripped the band-aid off what was an existing problem. I think people are feeling the effects a lot more now, but it's a problem that's been in existence for a long time. We've had a lack of clear pathway programs into the agricultural industry, whether that be, a lack of an apprenticeship scheme, a lack of programs like Ag Career Start, but also just a reducing number of people coming from farms. And I think to play devil's advocate or to poke the bear a little bit, I think farmers are facing a time when you're really having to change your recruitment practices and move from being opportunistic employers, posting a Facebook ad for your harvest team, to considered workforce strategy. Do you have a workforce plan within your business? And I think this is a large area of upskilling that people are starting to embark on the journey. Some are really good at it, but it is a skill set that I think producers are having to learn. And it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy. And I think there's, like, in my opinion, not enough resources out there or places to go and learn these skills for producers. So that's a big one for me.
Absolutely. No, I love that answer. And I think, yeah, we've definitely heard from our customers at least that it did feel like COVID was a real turning point in terms of particularly not being able to get backpackers. Like you mentioned earlier, Hannah, your operation has historically been very dependent. Had you noticed a big shift since COVID of that kind of being a turning point for bringing on new staff?
It was like a real key point for us, so we kind of swapped from our chicken farm to our cattle farm at the same time, but we did take some backpackers with us. So there was a lot that actually got stuck here, and that was finding them a job, but not, I guess, yeah, closing out to Aussie farmers as well, like Aussie workers. So that was, yeah, it was a big, hard time to navigate that, where you had a lot of people coming for jobs, but also leaving the job at the same time.
Yes, definitely a period of change for all of us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll move on to the next few questions. Kayla, to go back to you, just talking about the current sort of landscape, I know that you're dealing with young people and you mentioned that a lot of them are very fresh out the school gates, but are you seeing specific skills or hearing anything from your employers that you think are sort of most in demand?
Yeah, I think I challenge employers on this a lot because a lot of the producers I've dealt with across my career, not just in this program, will say, I really want someone who's got common sense. And what farmers really talk about when they're talking about common sense is they're looking for someone with farm sense. And I think I'm a bit sorry to say it's not easy to come by. Very hard to find someone with farm sense these days, particularly with someone who's not off a farm. But in that, what producers are really looking for are soft skills. I think most farmers, particularly the ones we deal with through this program, will say, I don't care if they're from a farm, if they've never driven a tractor before. I just want someone who's going to give it a red hot crack and be committed and stick around for the 10 to 12 months and show an interest. And so I think sometimes producers will pay a bit of lip service in that sense. Like that's what they'll tell me. But if they post an ad on Seek, let's say, there'll be a long list of experiential requirements. When I think what you're really looking for, again, is just those soft skills around communication, being on time, someone who's a team player, someone who's a motivated self-starter. It's those soft skills that are super in demand. And I don't think we know how to, and again, that comes back to my workforce planning point before, is how to adequately or accurately surmise what it is we're looking for in our employees beyond just a checklist of skills.
Absolutely. Would you agree with that, Hannah? I think you're just on mute there, Han. It's the
No,
classic.
sorry. I was just like, my top point when I was looking at this question was basically very similar, summed up. But my biggest word was just a little bit of common sense. I find that sort of lacking in people, even my own age. Like it's just that bit of independence to go, I don't know I'm doing how to do this job, but if I talk to someone or I follow that person, I'll get somewhere. So that sense of common sense. So, but I love that word, soft skills. That's sums up so well what is that minimum, not even minimum requirement, but that top that needs.
Yeah, a willingness to learn, it seems like is really the overarching point there.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in, just conscious of time. I did want to save some time at the end for some questions. Um, skipping through all my questions I had planned. This is an interesting one for you, Han. I was wondering how important the role of tech is in your hiring process, talking about skills, obviously being able to drive a manual vehicle or, drive a tractor or a header, whatever it is, work with cattle and livestock is important, but how important is the role of tech? And do you think that that is something that is coming up more often for you?
Yeah. Just make sure I'm unmuted. Yeah, so I have a very biased opinion of it. I am a large advocate for it, but I think it's also the generation that's coming through has grown up with technology, has an understanding of technology. So they may have a hidden skill that isn't in a farm yet. So I think it is going to be a major part. And yeah, I think it will be increasing on people's farms, and young people can be the solution to that, including them. And
I'll just jump in here and add as well when it comes to tech, not only are they digital natives, they've grown up in the technological landscape. I think something to consider for employers is that it's actually an expectation of employees entering the workforce these days that your business is innovating in the tech space. And that's not to say you have to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on drones or whatever it might be, but a new employee wants to see you innovating in that space. So whether, yeah, using programs like AgriWeb, for example, using WhatsApp versus a text message, like just little ways that you might be innovating and implementing tech on the day to day. That's, yeah, not just, young people, to I suppose to be very blunt, like to see people are not too stuck in their ways, and are moving forward.
I think another key, like going back to one thing you said, is you've got the Snapchat groups. Like, obviously, we don't condone Snapchatting while you're working, but there's groups and the women in agriculture, and there's a young, she's a bit older than me, I think, but Zoe Carter, like, she's talking to a lot of young people and going, what is your problem? What can we overcome together? Like, I think that is a really good source of technology at the moment that's not just on the farm.
Absolutely. No, I love that point. And so I guess just moving along, you've found your staff through whether it's something like Ag Career Start or a... Zoe's on the call today. Hello, Zoe, and thank you for joining. We love a little shout out. And now moving on to, it's all good and well to be able to attract these quality staff to your operation. Maybe you're a really desirable employer, but what are you going to actually do to keep them and make sure that your employees are satisfied with their roles? So, Hannah, I guess for you, is there any sort of ways that you are measuring employee satisfaction? Do you run reviews or anything like that? Is there any opportunity for your employees on farm? And I know a lot of them are family, so I'm sure there's lots of consistent feedback going back and forth across the dinner table. But do you have a more formalized way of addressing feedback?
Yeah, so we have our general Monday morning meeting where we address what's happening for the week, if there was any major things that happened the previous week or major safety issues for the week going forward, we catch up. But something that my grandfather and my father really carried through from the chicken farm into the cattle farm is we catch up with each person in groups or individually every week. We try to, but on a larger scale every month. And then we take that back to our large management family group, whatever that is, and talk about that issue. But we like to make sure everybody feels like they are being heard and then discuss that issue or that feeling. And it's not even just how they're feeling on the farm. How are you feeling at home? Because if you're not okay at home or something major has happened to you, you're not going to be working well. So then we need to address that and go, okay, maybe you do need to have a week for yourself because you're not going to perform as well as you want to. So take that time.
Kayla, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think employers in general, not just farmers, a lot of employers are not very good at performance managing their staff. I think a lot of people will say, "Oh, but I ask my employee all the time how they're doing," and I would challenge that to say, do you create an environment where your employee could be honest and vulnerable with you? Do you approach the conversation in a way where they could be honest and vulnerable with you? And I would say don't underestimate the power distance that you have as an employer from your employee and how you have to develop that trust for them to be really honest with you about how they're feeling within the business. The second thing about retention for me is about growth opportunities. So I think we get really bogged down in agriculture in this conversation about pay and salary and how competitive we are against other industries like mining or construction or whatever it might be. I think we need to think outside the box when we're looking at remuneration. What does remuneration even mean? It's not just about salary. I think, particularly in family businesses, we hear all the time, young people, they don't want to do any of the shit jobs. And to be honest, they don't. No. And this is a generation that's going to fight you on that tooth and nail. And I think there's good reason for that, particularly in a family business. You put sweat equity in, it's your business, right? A young person spends 5 hours out chipping weeds out in a paddock. Like, what do they get for doing that beyond the, $18, $19 an hour or whatever it is they earn? So, where are the opportunities then for them to grow? Are you sitting down with them to have a conversation about, okay, if you stick around for 12 months, we can advance your salary to this rate, or we can offer you, I don't know, a small amount of acreage to put in a crop, or you can make a decision about the kind of I don't know, inputs we're going to put in next year, or give them opportunities to lead, give them opportunities to make decisions, give them opportunities to take ownership of the business. One of our producers in the program, he says to us all the time that he's very conscious of his language and how he talks about our business and our farm, not my farm, or my family's farm. So it's little things like that as well, beyond just pay rises. Also, something one of our other producers has done is our participant finished the gap year program, and as an incentive to stay another 12 months, they would get a small salary raise. They got a title change, so they moved from farmhand to senior farmhand, and then they also created an opportunity where if they saw out the next 12 months, the farm was actually going to pay for that person to go to an international conference. For some people, that would just be the best incentives to stick around for 12 months. If I know if I do 2 years on this farm, I'm going to get sent to Denmark or wherever it is to go to a dairy conference or something. So we just have to think outside the box when it comes to retention. But I will say the number one reason our participants leave farm is due to culture. So if you're having issues with retention, that's where I would start.
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you, Kayla and Hannah. That was a great overview. It does sound like communication and transparency are really big themes there, and just trying to keep everyone on the same page. Um, I wanted to move down a little bit. I might just go to you, Han. Kayla's obviously mentioned quite a few opportunities that Ag Career Start offer to their employees in terms of development and growth. Is there anything that you and your family offer on farm to encourage your employees to continue to grow in their roles?
Um,
And that may not be just in terms of a step up, it might be a step across, or particularly leaning into a specific area of the business. Maybe it is, taking control of agri tasks or something like that, for example.
we have this. My dad would sort of sum up our property as a wagon wheel. So everybody has a spoke and everything is a spoke. Every production is a different spoke on that wagon wheel. And we, yeah, we really like titles, as much as it sounds silly, but at the same time we do. Like, we you would probably categorize me as the technology. We have our full-time employee who has been with us for like 24 years or something. It's been ridiculous how long we've had him, but he has been offered a house, and his salary hasn't so much changed, but as he's progressed, he's been given a better vehicle for access to the farm. And then the other family members who have progressed into their contracting, we've said, okay, well, you could still be here, but it would be beneficial for you as a person to go into a contracting business, and we will provide work for you for the next 12 months. We will set up these jobs so that you can be here whilst you're looking for other people to share your services to. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Thank you. I wanted to move on now, just before we do jump into a few questions at the end of this session, just a bit of a future outlook from both of you. Kayla, you've spoken a little bit about what we've seen in the past and kind of where we are now, but I'd love to hear, is there any sort of trends that you see impacting the ag workforce in the next 5 to 10 years that you think the people on the call today should be aware of?
Um, Look, this is a really complex problem. I think if it wasn't, it would be solved. This is an issue we're just always going to be dealing with in one way or another. I definitely think there's more to be done. The good news is I think I saw Ag Skilled on the call before. There's work being done around an ag apprenticeship at the moment, which is really fantastic to see. There's always work going on. But I think I just have to urge producers, like, if you're not getting yourself in the frame of mind of a workforce strategy for your business, you're going to be behind the eight ball. I'm not talking about who are you employing in 6 weeks. I'm talking about who you're employing next year. What are your business needs? And if you have a critical position within your business, let's say, your long-term senior farm manager, what's your transition plan? If that person leaves the business, who are you going to replace them with? Have a think about that. I was talking to someone once, and one thing I suggested was have an expressions of interest open. Like, if you've got a website available, have you got an avenue on your website for people to put in their interest in a potential role in your company that may not even exist for 18 months yet? Make sure you're accessible. I think there's a question in the chat about targeting management level team members. This is a good one for that as well. So it's about visibility. So it's about strategy. It's about brand. It's about having an intention. It's not just about being an opportunistic employer. It's about saying, I know I'm going to have these needs now, and in 3 years' time, I'm going to have these needs because this is where we're looking to scale to. And what kind of team do you need to meet those needs? And start the work now. Again, to harp on about young people and technology, I hate to say it, social media is kind of going to become more critical. And I'm not saying you have to have this beautiful Instagram page, but if you're not visible when someone does a Google search, if I can't get an impression of your business when I look for you on Google, if I'm looking for somewhere to work, first thing I do when I'm looking for somewhere to work is head to Google and see if I can find anything about them. It's the same for us. It's not going to be any different for us as producers. And further to that, around brand and representation is about reputation and word of mouth. So, again, coming back to culture, how are people exiting your business as well? That's also really important.
That's great advice. Thank you, Kayla. Hannah, I just wanted to finish up with you if you had any advice for, it sounds like you've built a really fabulous culture at Grassbrook Pastoral. So I wondered if you had any advice for the producers on the call on how they could look to cultivate a similar culture.
Yeah. This is the worst answer, but we have been very lucky in our word of mouth, and being a small country town, there's kids that live in our town that aren't country at all, haven't had a lot to do with farms. But we went to the high school. We had a couple of kids making noise saying, look, we want to come, we want to do holiday work, we want to do all that. And we went to the high school and said, what can we do to get these kids? And we had for a good couple of years a steady flow of young kids just going, I'm sick of school, I just need a break. So I think just finding that key spot and not even appreciating, but acknowledging that you may not get the best person straight up. So, but still give them a go. Let them come, let them learn. And they're then going to go to their friend who goes, I'm so sick of this. I don't know what to do. And they go, hey, I was here. I liked it, but it wasn't the best thing for me. Or like all they wanted me to do was go chase cows and I wasn't interested. And some kid's going to go, or some adult or their parents going to go, hey, I want to do that, and just building that good reputation. So finding that start on how to get your good reputation and keep it rolling. We had it in the school and over in Israel with these backpackers, just wanting someone to come and give them an opportunity and put a little bit of care into them. And you may not get the person that you want straight up for the job you're advertising straight up, and sometimes you just have to help train those people or let them be there for a little bit and then move on until the best person comes on for both of you.
It's great advice. Well, thank you both so much for that discussion. I think there were plenty of takeaways. Very excited. I've been scribbling away lots of notes for things to follow up with both of you on. I just want to finish up with a few questions. I know we've only got a few minutes, so I'm going to leave us here and not worry about any more slides. Jeff had a question for you, Kayla, if there was any issue of loneliness particularly with the young participants.
Yes, absolutely. Homesickness and loneliness is up there with the number one reason that our candidates would leave the program. I think that's where culture on farm is really important. Second to that, that's where the pastoral support provided through this program is important, and also the fact that it's a cohort-based program. So what part of what we do now, which we started doing this year, was an orientation week. So building that peer-to-peer support network. So this year on farm we had 80 participants, so nationally spread all across the country. That means they had a little inbuilt support network. By the time they went to farm, they knew who was going to be in their local area, which is always really great. So yes, loneliness is a problem, and I think not. It feels like a negative, but you do have to parent these young people a little bit, right? Like they're so low skill, so low life skill. They need help. And especially these at the current cohorts we're dealing with, they went through high school in peak COVID. Some of these kids did never attended a class in school for 3 years. They didn't leave their home, they didn't leave their suburb for 3 years. So I think you have to throw that lens over moving them from Melbourne to Collyambly, let's say. Um, it's huge. It's huge for anyone. So yes, loneliness is a problem. I'll just answer a couple more questions because I saw them in there about the program, and one of them was around: do they show any inclinations to study ag? Yes. Um, I don't know of a single participant who's completed our program who went off to uni into something other than agriculture. Whether they were considering to study ag before the program or not, those conversion rates for us are incredibly high. Students who are uni bound that come through our program, yeah, highly likely for it to be agriculture after they leave. You'll see them coming in wanting to study, like one of the girls in our first year, she wanted to study environmental science, and she was using this as a gap year program, a true gap year program, because she was really environmentally motivated, put her on farm for 12 months, and suddenly all the stars aligned for her in how her desire to help, the environment and contribute meaningfully, she could achieve that through agriculture. She didn't have to go and study environmental science. So it's really powerful when they can actually visualize it on farm.
Thank you, Kayla. There was a question from Kelly just around the geographical spread. If you could give us a 20-second overview of kind of your key
Yeah.
hubs, if
Yeah.
there are any.
Yeah, look, it has been incredibly East Coast centric, and I hate to say that because I worked in the WA ag industry for a decade. We're working really hard in the West, but yeah, it has been primarily our main sort of concentration areas are New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. Of the 180 placements, I'd say that makes up about 120 of those. But I think we've got about 7 placements in SA for next year, about 6 in WA. So always growing the numbers. If you know anyone in that area, please. But yeah, it is national, which is always great.
Okay, fabulous. And while I've got you, Kayla, I know a few people are starting to drop off. Their lunch break is over. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about the program, best place to start is the Ag Career Start website. It's all one word, really easy to find. There's an email address at the bottom of that if you want to chat to the team. But if you want to chat to me, pick my brain at all, I'm very happy to share my knowledge with you all. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. We're on time. There's a few people asking for the recording. We will definitely be sharing the recording of this session this afternoon. You'll get a follow-up email from us. I'll make sure that Kayla's info is there in there as well. Hannah, I won't put your email in there, don't worry. But if people do respond with questions, I'll send them your way. I really wanted to thank you both so much for this session. Some incredible takeaways. Fabulous to have both a producer perspective and also your perspective as well, Kayla. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon, everyone. We will see you on our next webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.